Hello everyone, John from Gaming in the Wild here, and the start of a new year means it's time for one of the videos that I most look forward to making for you all. It's time for the Gaming in the Wild Big Indie Game Guide 2026. So in this video, I'm going to run through over 50 indie games that are slated for release this year. We have some tiny solo dev projects, we have some small team games with fascinating aesthetics and mechanics, and the bigger indie games that could come to define this year in gaming. And there is a wild variety of games in here, from a melancholic sailing simulator set in a mysterious archipelago to a vibey driving game where we truck through the wreckage of human civilization to an eye-popping and completely unique first-person shooter. So open up your wish lists because there's going to be a lot of games that I think you're going to be interested in coming out across the next 12 months. And just before we get into it, I actually want to tell you about a lovely little game called Kajora that is out now. I talked about this game in my January indie release video, link on the screen now if you didn't see it, and after seeing that video, the developer reached out and offered to support this channel by sponsoring a video, and I was very, very glad they did because I really love the look of the game and I really wanted to support it anyway. It's a paranormal story game that was made in Indonesia, and you play as a girl called Kajora, who is seemingly the only person in her village who notices that the whole world is stuck in a time loop. She goes on a mission to try and save her friends from what's happening and solve the mystery at the heart of it all. This involves some puzzle platforming, where you need to use the abilities of the friends you've awoken to move forward, so it's a very clever little game in its design, and it has a lively, fresh cartoon art style. It's available now for PlayStation, Switch and PC, and I actually have 3 Steam codes for this game to give away, so if you would like to win one, just sub to the channel, like the video, and drop a comment with your most anticipated indie game of 2026, and I will reach out to 3 people soon. Thanks again to the publisher Soft Source for sponsoring this video, and make sure that you go and check out Kajora because it's a really nice little game. And with that, let's get into it. It is time for the Big Indie Game Guide 2026. We have a lot of games to get through in this video. I have over 50 indie games that are coming out this year to talk about, and I'm going to run through them alphabetically. The first one is a game that I've been really smitten by in the trailers, and it is Aphelion. It's an ambitious science fiction exploration game by the ever-reliable Dontnod, and it's set in the year 2060 when the Earth has become uninhabitable, and the European Space Agency has sent a 2-person astronaut team to the frozen planet of Persephone to see if it can become a new home for humanity. They get separated during a crash landing, and the game is the story of these 2 astronauts trying to find each other, trying to stay alive, and trying to chart this hostile alien planet. The game promises grounded, realistic exploration with ice cliffs, caves, and more, and a dual perspective where the story switches between the 2 protagonists, so we have 2 playstyles to learn during all of the cinematic set pieces and stealth sections with unknown threats from beneath the ice. I just can't wait for this one. The visuals look really compelling, and I'm a sucker for exactly this kind of sci-fi. It's coming to Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox Series in 2026. That's Aphelion. It's been several years since Thunder Lotus released their soulful indie hit Spiritfarer, but we're going to get to see what they've been cooking all of this time in 2026 in the shape of At Fate's End. It's a visually impressive action-adventure with a strong narrative that looks like it will keep that familial tenderness of Spiritfarer while adding an interesting argument combat hybrid system where you can choose words or violence or both, something a lot of us can probably relate to if politics came up over the Christmas break. In this game, you have to investigate the secrets of your noble family and then confront your estranged siblings in impressive climactic duels. You can use the secrets you've learned at key moments to reveal what you know and win the upper hand in the battles, and it looks like you can try and get these siblings on your side and learn their skills if you can talk them around during these sword fights. I'm interested to see how all of this plays out in a moment-to-moment gameplay basis, but you really can't argue with this game's presentation. It's visually impressive and it has a lush orchestral soundtrack. It uses a tarot-like deck to represent the family tree, which I'm really into. I think that's a bit of a trend alert this year, tarot decks in games. And Thunder Lotus really know how to cook up a game that balances mechanics and narrative, so I can't wait to see how this turns out. It's coming to Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox. That's At Fate's End. Sometimes a game comes around that seems to single-handedly coin a new genre that seems like a bunch of words that don't really belong together, like for example, a survival horror farming simulator. That is the genre of Besmirch, a game in which you arrive in a desolate zombie-infested town. You are the newest farmhand on the block and you have to tend to the farm by day, then at night the monsters come out and you have to not get eaten and presumably find ways to fight back. So there's going to be a mixture of planting seeds, watering, harvesting and so forth. You have to get enough for you to eat and the people around you to eat, and also pay the corrupt Baron his due every month, and then at night you have to try and keep the demons at bay and keep them from destroying all of your crops. It's quite an interesting concept, and I think it's helped along by a stark, simple art style that really accentuates the horror somehow. That's Besmirch. It's coming to Steam only for now on the 11th of May. The next game on this list is the first one that is already out, so if you like the look of it, you can go and snag a copy right now. The launch discount is still running at the time when I recorded this video. It's out on Steam, PlayStation, and Switch, and it is called Big Hops. It's a playful, dynamic 3D platformer with a highly mobile moveset. You play as a frog who can wall run, mantle, spring up in the air, catch onto things with his long tongue, which acts as both a hook shot for zooming through the air and an Indiana Jones style whip for swinging. And all of these moves open up a whole world of creative movement possibilities. You really do feel like you're free to explore and traverse and be creative in how you get through this game. It also has a bright, colourful art style that's giving Nintendo-adjacent indie vibes, and I've been playing this game and I've been having a really good time with it. I will say that there's been word that the console ports have been a little buggy and jittery, so maybe one for your Steam Deck. That's Big Hops, and it's out now. And from making big hops to taking a big walk, we're also getting the next game from the creators of Untitled Goose Game this year. Like everyone, I've seen people calling these games friend slop online, which seems like a pretty ungenerous genre name. I mean, the multiplayer game Peak was a huge hit last year and made a lot of people happy, not least due to its creative use of proximity chat. Big Walk is somewhat similar. It's billed as being a game about teamwork and talking, and you, with 2 to 4 friends, and maybe more, can explore an open world together, solving puzzles, causing mischief, and exploring the game's rugged landscape. You can hang out watching sunsets on the beach, you can climb to the top of tall mountains, you can explore deep caves, and I feel like this kind of game is maybe intended for another type of player from me, who likes voice chat and online multiplayer and self-guided fun. But hey, Ark Raiders surprised me last year by popping up on my Games of the Year list, so who knows, maybe Big Walk will this year. It's coming to all the consoles and Steam. That's Big Walk. I'm a big fan of Drinkbox Studios. They made the charming Brawl 'em Up series Guacamelee, they made the vastly enjoyable arcadey Zelda-like Nobody Saves the World, and now they are back with Blighted. It's an isometric action Metroidvania in which you play as a character called, for some reason, Sorcisto, which has got to be an early contender for the worst video game name of the year. But when Sorcisto's village is consumed by a horde of monsters, which not only spirit away the villagers but try to consume the village's memories, it's up to you to go and get them back. And like all of Drinkbox's games, this will entail combo-based combat, tough bosses whose brains you have to eat to gain new abilities, which is kind of cool and also super gross. And interestingly, this game will try and have a dynamic difficulty system, so the level of challenge will respond to how things are going on screen. And I think that players generally, me included, have mixed feelings about dynamic difficulty systems. It means that players aren't quite having the same experience somehow. But the gameplay itself looks good. It looks Hades adjacent, if a little slower, maybe some Diablo DNA in there too, and the visual style is on point as always. I'm really curious to see what Drinkbox are cooking up with this one. There will be local co-op as well, because apparently every game needs that now. This is an interesting one for sure. It's only on Steam initially, but it will come to all the consoles, I'm sure. That's Blighted. And one of the games I've been most excited about in 2026 is CAIRN by the Game Bakers. It's a technically minded mountain climbing sim with quite a unique control system. You can select any of your climbers' 4 limbs individually and guide them to a handhold or a foothold. So it has a very slow, purposeful, laborious version of video game climbing where you're often just springing from rung to rung. So if you can imagine the Death Stranding style of walking applied to mountain climbing, that's kind of what this game feels like. And I think the thing that really appeals to me about this game is that it really does feel like you versus the mountain, not least because of the survival elements. Because as well as maintaining grip on the mountain itself, you also have to manage your food, water, and energy levels. You have to tape up your fingers and chalk your hands for grip before a big climb. You have to make sure that you have enough pitons to drill into the mountainside and rope yourself up. Each cliff face feels like a difficult puzzle in its own right, with various routes that you can try to take, and when you make it to the top, the feeling of achievement is real. This is a really great game. I'm playing it for review right now, and there is a demo for you to try if it sounds like it might be for you. I recommend trying this one out, even if you're not into the premise. They've really pulled off something special here. I've been playing it every night and I'm just transfixed by it. It'll be on PlayStation and Steam on January 29th. That's CAIRN. Another January game on this list that you can play right now actually is Cassette Boy. It's a cool Game Boy style 2D Zelda-like, but it has an interesting twist in that you can rotate the world around you a la Fez. This is a really interesting format for video game puzzles, especially because this game has an out of sight, out of mind mechanic where if you rotate the world to hide a guard or an obstacle, if it's not on camera it doesn't exist, so you can pass unaccosted and then rotate back. This is a really cool concept, and I think that what you're looking at on the screen now kind of speaks for itself. You'll know if this is a game for you. It's certainly a game for me. I'm playing it right now on my PC handheld, and I actually do have 5 Cassette Boy Steam codes to give away to new patrons at the $3 tier or above. Link on the screen now if you'd like to join and get a free Cassette Boy Steam code. It'll be first come, first served, and if you miss out, you can play this game on all the consoles and Steam. That's Cassette Boy. There are a handful of indie sequels in this video, and the first up is Coffee Talk Tokyo, the follow-up to the charming visual novel Coffee Talk. Now, I'm not the biggest visual novel fan in the world, but Coffee Talk really charmed me. It's a game that I always bring up as a positive example of the genre. In this game, you're a barista at a place called Coffee Talk, which is a 24-hour coffee joint. You take the night shift, so you meet the nocturnal people of this city. You have to make them drinks in a brewing minigame to try and soothe their woes away. You will get return customers who come night after night, and you get to see their stories unfold. You get to see them meet and interact with each other. You get to see what kind of effect your work has on their lives. The first game was set in a Seattle-like fantasy city, but I'm really curious to see what the team will do with this Tokyo setting. It's a slow, reading-heavy play, but I really do recommend this actually. You do get very invested in all of the customers' stories, and I had a great time with Coffee Talk. This one is Coffee Talk Tokyo, coming out on May 21st, right in time for my birthday no less, so it's a nice present for me as well. This next one is a wild one. You might have seen it being unveiled if you watched opening night live in summer of last year. It is called Denshattack, and it's some kind of crazy amalgamation of skating game and rails game, quite literally in this case, as you play a train that can trick off of its rails, grinding, jumping, and smashing through obstacles. It looks completely surreal in a specifically Japanese way. We see in the trailer that you're not just on the rails, but you also ride along on a rolling Ferris wheel, you go under the water, and there's a section where you try to escape from a giant rolling baseball, and as if all of that wasn't enough, it looks like you'll battle Transformers-style bosses made up of different train carriages and that kind of thing. This is a game that looks like someone tried to distill the essence of Japanese pop culture and all of its effervescence and insanity all into one game. It's that feeling that you get in Tokyo that nobody knows exactly what's going on, but everyone knows that it's very cool. I'll be there on day one for this one to see what it's all about. It's coming to PC, PlayStation, and Xbox Series later this year. That's Denshattack. Another aesthetically bonkers game that's coming out this year is Don't Stop Girlypop, a Y2K era FPS that is drenched in pink and glitter and light. To be real, I get a headache even looking at this game, but I'm also super drawn to its mixture of flip phones and girl bands and Doom-like high-speed forge-ahead gameplay. There is no other game that looks and plays just like this one, I am sure, and sometimes you can just be happy that something exists even if it isn't necessarily for you, you know? So this is probably not one that I'll be picking up myself, but I thought it was definitely worth putting it on all of your radars, especially if you want to, quote, dominate the battlefield in a quintuple denim masterpiece, end quote. That's Don't Stop Girlypop, out for PC on the 29th of January. In quarter one of the year, we can also expect Esoteric Ebb, a tabletop-inspired fantasy RPG that tries to recreate the freedom of Games Master-led tabletop play for video games. It's basically a solo dev effort trying to pull off what Disco Elysium and Baldur's Gate 3 did, only more so, which is a bold move, especially considering it's just made by one person, solo developer Christopher Bogard. So this one is an impressively ambitious solo dev undertaking. It's being published by notable indie publisher Raw Fury, who are pretty well regarded for their knack of spotting indie gems, and it promises an ambitious array of features, from a vast amount of choices matter outcomes to deep lore and huge numbers of NPCs. There's a complex web of stats that change what you can do or perceive in the game, and a dice-based system where failing is as entertaining as winning. Colour me intrigued for this one, but it might be for the RPG hardcore. Let's see where the reviews come down. That's Esoteric Ebb, coming to Steam in quarter one of the year. A A game that's more concerned with simple pleasures is Gecko Gods, a colourful looking game that looks like a 3D platformer on the face of it, and there is a little bit of that in the game, but it's more of an exploration game at heart. Playing as a gecko, you can walk up anything with your sticky little feet. So you can walk up walls, you can get into air shafts, you can get into little cracks and holes and things like that, and you can explore all of these crumbling temples that form the game's play area. So if Stray was a game that brought the player to cat's eye view living, Gecko Gods takes them even lower for the full lizard experience. And over in the Gaming in the Wild Patreon Discord, we have a Steam Next Fest event where everyone votes on their favourite games of the fest. There's usually like 100 games that get played, and Gecko Gods came out on top. It was the most popular game of Next Fest. And deservedly so, I would say. I really loved this demo. It's a very mellow game and a really good time. That's Gecko Gods, coming to Switch, PlayStation and Steam in Q1 2026. Another vibes-based exploration game of a very different type is Garbage Country, a post-apocalyptic exploration sim from Noyo. That's the developer of the fantastic, underrated Cloud Gardens. That game was a puzzle game and a freeform builder that I really liked. You construct post-human dioramas and overgrow them with plants. Garbage Country continues that theme, but you get to explore this whole post-human world instead of building it. You can drive over endless trash heaps in your trusty little Jeep, and I was really into that idea of it being a straight-up exploration game, but the Steam page also shows some tower defense stuff that I was not expecting to see, so I guess you're going to be collecting resources to try and defend your base against a mechanized threat or something to that effect. That's slight alarm bells for me personally, as it seems to be in conflict with the game's peaceful, melancholic core appeal. But one thing is for sure, the vibes are in place as the developer describes them here. Sun-bleached concrete, the crackle of a radio antenna, the wind whistles as dust blows over a forgotten highway. As you drive across the world of Garbage Country, taking the overgrown rubble of what was and what might be. Very poetic. We can try it out for ourselves when this game launches on Steam in Q2 of the year. That's Garbage Country. The first delayed game of the year that I'm going to talk about here is Hermit and Pig, a raucous pixel RPG with a sense of humour and a unique combat system as well. This game got pushed from January 22nd to February the 5th, just after I made my January look ahead video, so sorry if you got some misinformation there. But delay aside, you should still be looking forward to this game. It is something very unique. I love the demo of this one. You play as a hermit who has a mushroom-sniffing pig as a companion. You explore the wilds, eating mysterious fungi and having cosmic visions as a result, and you get drawn into a world-threatening adventure along the way. The combat system involves referring to your notebook for key combos and entering sequences of button presses to pull them off, and it's genuinely a pretty funny game, which I think is quite a rare feat. The demo had me laughing out loud a couple of times. That's Hermit and Pig. It's coming to PC and Mac only for now on, checks notes, February the 5th. One of the more intriguing games on this list is Love Eternal. It's an unconventional narrative platformer that's really trying to do something new by injecting some experimentalism and psychological horror into the platforming genre. In this game, a regular suburban girl is kidnapped by a mysterious deity who makes her run through halls full of memories forever unless she can find a way to escape. This involves a form of platforming where you can jump onto the floor, switch gravity, and then jump onto the ceiling to avoid spikes and pits and so forth, so it's heavily inspired by the game VVV, but I think it's the aesthetic of this game that is the most interesting. It's really trying to pull something off with this story and the sort of gnarly look of it all. I think fans of the vibes of Celeste and Sorry We're Closed might enjoy this one. That's Love Eternal, coming to PC and all of the consoles in Q1. I also love the vibes of Mariachi Legends. This is a gothic pixel art Metroidvania based on Mexico's colourful, vibrant and macabre mythology of death. In this game, you play as a detective called Pablo Cruz who makes a deal with Death, who gives him magical powers that will help him to save his hometown. Of course, there are two sides to the bargain, and your side is that you have to find the only man who evaded Death's clutches and became immortal, eluding her cold grasp. This being a Metroidvania, you kind of know what to expect, I think. It will involve a lot of combat, a lot of puzzling, a lot of powering up, a lot of platforming and exploration. It looks like there is a focus on combat in this game with a tight parry-based combat system and an in-depth skill tree, and some extra points of course for the Day of the Dead themed tarot cards that are the skill tree in this game. In fact, you even get a reading at the beginning that randomly selects your starting skills. Very cool idea. You'll also be doing detective work where you'll be solving mysteries and helping out NPCs. All this and a cooking minigame too. What's not to like? That's Mariachi Legends, coming to Switch and Steam in Q2. Metroidvania fans are eating well this year because we're also getting Neo Memories in Orbit, which is a sci-fi spin on the Metroidvania. This game is probably out already as you're watching this video. It's releasing on the 20th of January, and a lot of people are excited for this game, with good reason, I would say. It's a gorgeous science fiction environment. It's a dying megastructure that you get to explore as Mio, a mysterious little droid. You explore the pipes and the workshops and the corridors of this dying space station, trying to fend off enemies, reactivate friendly droids, and figure out what the heck is going on. I've been playing this one with a review code. It's fun, even if it's a little bit confusing and labyrinthine at times. You'll have to feel comfortable with backtracking and being lost to enjoy this one. But that's a big part of what Metroidvanias are all about, so play it for yourself on January the 20th on all of the consoles and Steam. That's Mio Memories in Orbit. On the 10th of February, we get Mugenics. This is a game that first started development 14 years ago in 2012, before entering a protracted period of development hell. The developer is Edmund McMillan, who was the guy behind The Binding of Isaac, and he started working on the game again in 2018 with Tyler Glale, and it's finally coming out this year. It's a game in which you strategically breed cats, of all things, to create a feline army that you can then deploy in tactical battles. So you will also get to draft abilities, you'll get to manipulate what skills are inherited, you'll get to work on the family tree to try and produce the warriors that you want for your strategy. I think this is a really interesting take on a roguelike tactics game. I kind of like that Rogue Legacy 2 did something similar, where you would get new heroes that were born for every run. This game takes that idea a step further, and it will be interesting to see what a game that took this long comes out like in the end. We'll all get to find out together when the game finally releases for PC on February the 10th. That's Mugenics. That 14-year development cycle makes Mina the Hollower look positively breezy. Nevertheless, I don't think this game needs that much of a long introduction, as we've been waiting for it for so long. It is, of course, the slightly spooky Game Boy Color style Zelda-like from Yacht Club Games. This one was slated for release last Halloween, which got the fans very excited, but it got bumped at the last minute into 2026 for polish, balancing, localization, and optimization for the many systems that it's coming out on. The good news is that means it's coming out on PC and all of the consoles, and hopefully it will be in good shape as a result. And if you can't wait to get your hands on it, there is a demo that you can play now on Switch and Steam. I recommend taking a look at that. I expect to see this game creeping into some Games of the Year lists come year end. That's Mina the Hollower. When we think about the Minotaur being in video games, I think we're usually the one that is besting its labyrinth and killing it. We are usually the hunter, and Minotaur is normally our prey or a boss or something like that. But in Minos, the tables are turned. We play as the Minotaur itself, trying to design the most fiendish maze possible to protect itself from a stream of bloodthirsty adventurers. I guess all the times that we've been killing Minotaurs in video games across the decades, we never thought to ask, wait, are we the baddies? The game is a roguelike, so I guess you'll be building a lot of mazes, unlocking new traps to spring on all comers, and building up to the final battle with Theseus. If you know the myths, you'll know how that ends, but I guess in this game we get the chance to flip the script and help that poor hunted Minotaur come out on top. This one is being published by Devolver Digital, which is a reliable seal of quality, so look out for it on Steam later this year. That's Minos. This next game is one of the ones that I'm most personally excited about. I've been jonesing to get my hand on this game for over a year now. It's Mixtape, the second game from Beethoven and Dinosaur, the makers of the cosmic rock odyssey The Artful Escape. And Mixtape switches out grand cosmic psychedelia for nostalgic 80s and 90s teen nostalgia, melding together a scorching retro alt-rock soundtrack, including everyone from Susie and the Banshees to The Cure to the Smashing Pumpkins, with swathes of film references from coming-of-age classics like Ferris Bueller, Bill and Ted, and Wayne's World. It has a mesmerizing stop-motion art style and a healthy dose of magic realism. And as for the gameplay, it's still a little bit of a mystery, even with the trailers that we've seen, so I think the jury is out on that. Honestly, your guess is as good as mine. We see snatches of driving, skating, platforming, and Life is Strange type environments to explore, and I really trust this developer to make something good. I think The Artful Escape was really full of life, full of joy, so their games trade on vibes over mechanical complexity, and that is fine by me. We have no release window for this one as yet, but I think we'll be seeing it sooner rather than later. That's Mixtape. And another 2026 game with a sense of nostalgia is Moomin Troll Winter's Warmth. And I think how you feel about Moomins kind of depends where you're from. They are little known in the US, they are vastly popular in Europe, and it feels like they're more popular than Pokemon and Disney in the Nordic region. Me being based in Iceland, Moomins are absolutely everywhere, and I've always loved them even before I moved here. They're children's stories that are packed with wonder and earthy wisdom that don't shy away from the chaotic nature of life. I think Moomins tell stories that it's really good for kids to hear, and the recent games have done a great job of bringing that Moomin style into the 2020s. Snufkin The Memories of Moomin Valley was a great little hand-drawn top-down puzzle adventure, and Moomin Troll Memories of Winter looks set to continue that success when it comes out later in 2026. Two more M games to go, and as if Don't Stop Girlypop wasn't enough as far as unconventional FPS games go this year, we'll also get to see the release of Mouse P.I. for Hire. I'm sure you've seen this one doing the rounds. It's a first-person shooter that uses the Steamboat Mickey aesthetic for a Cuphead-style 1930s animated look. So it has a lot of charm right off the bat. There's FPS action, but apparently the game also has NPCs, side quests, and detective gameplay, which makes me more interested than if it was a straight-up shooter, even though the turpentine gun that melts enemies into skeletons looks pretty fun. That's Mouse P.I. for Hire, coming out on Switch, PlayStation, Xbox and PC on the 19th of March. But it isn't the only mouse game that we'll be seeing this year, because Q1 will also bring Mousebusters, a cute pixel art exorcism game by Odincat, the developers behind the underrated indie gem Meg's Monster. Mousebusters is another charming little adventure that mixes together mice and Ghostbusters, so you'll be exploring a tower block trying to save its residents from their inner demons, and we aren't talking figuratively here, they literally have demons inside of them. So there's a little bit of a psychonautical element to this game as you'll be exercising these folks one by one. The art is just lovely, the concept is fresh. That's Mousebusters coming to Steam in Q1 of the year. And getting through the M games means that we're halfway through this video. That means that if you're still watching, you are definitely an indie game fan, and I want to tell you about how you can get a free indie game code. If you join this channel's Patreon at the $3 tier or above, I will send you a Steam code for one of 5 highly rated indie games that I have hand-selected for you to try out. You can choose between the phenomenal twin-stick shooter Sectory, which hit my Games of the Year honorable mentions last year. You can choose a copy of the perspective-shifting Zelda-like Cassette Boy featured earlier in this video. You can also get a code for the vastly underrated conversational card game Signs of the Sojourner, which is one of my personal favourite indie games ever. You can get a code for the 2-hour archery adventure Many Nights a Whisper, which featured in my 2025 Games of the Year Top 10. And finally, you can get a Steam code for the silky smooth sci-fi racer Phantom Spark, an elegant and addictive time trial game with competitive online leaderboards. Really recommend that one. Finally, you can also opt for a PS5 code for 1000 Times Resist, my 2024 Game of the Year in the EU or US region. So if you would like to support this channel, get extra material, join the Patreon Discord, and get a free code for Sectory, Cassette Boy, Signs of the Sojourner, Many Nights a Whisper, or Phantom Spark, head over to the link that is on the screen now. It's patreon.com/gaminginthewild. Join at the $3 tier, and I will be in touch with you to say thank you and send you your code. It's first come, first served, and I have more codes for some games than others, so hop right on it and you will get a code for something until they all run out. Thanks very much to the developers for supplying these codes, and with that, let's get back to the video. Next up is a really big one actually. It's from the developer Ion Lands, whose first game Cloudpunk was a moody taxi driver sim set in a Blade Runner inspired cyberpunk city. It absolutely nailed the vibe that it was going for, and in the follow-up the developers are going one further. Nivalis is a full-on life sim game where you get the chance not just to drive around a cyberpunk city but to live there full time. This means a whole business simulation section where you can grow from having a small stim stall to ruling the city's nightlife. You can upgrade from your small apartment to a giant lavish apartment that you can customize to your heart's content. There is fishing, there is resource management, there is romance, and a story to experience about the city of Nivalis itself. I think this is a really fascinating game, but I do really wonder what state it's in also. It's a small team and it's been delayed time and again. It was delayed out of 2025 for more polish, but I'm staying optimistic about this one for when Nivalis releases later this year. This next game was one that I'd not heard of until someone drafted it in my Fantasy Critic League. It's called Ontos, and it turned out to be the next game by Frictional Games, the makers of the sci-fi classic Soma and the Amnesia series. It's an exploration game where you go to a moon base in search of your missing father, who is apparently both a genius scientist and a cult leader. Busy guy. That's a bit of a strained premise if you ask me, but the game itself promises to mix realistic environments with unsettling otherworldly encounters, and I think this is shaping up to be one of the most notable horror games of the year. It has a 2026 release window, so expect to see it around Halloween maybe. That's Ontos. Jonathan Blow is a controversial figure in game development, and I won't go into why here, but Google it if you want, it will be easy enough to find. And while he seems to hold some pretty objectionable views, I think few would argue that he makes interesting games. First came time-winding platformer Braid, next came ambitious open-world puzzler The Witness, and then a literal 10-year gap until we get our hands on what he's been making all of this time, which is Order of the Sinking Star, a complex puzzle game with over 1,000 puzzles to solve. It seems to have a strong influence from the Japanese sokoban genre, where you push blocks around in a certain order to proceed, but this being Jonathan Blow, of course there is more to it than that. There are 4 worlds, each with different mechanics, and those mechanics interlock as the game progresses. It apparently also has 4 playable characters and a story to untangle along the way. In fact, it's quite narrative forward considering its puzzle-centric focus. I'll be interested to see how this one turns out. It feels like it could be either a mega hit masterclass in game design or an esoteric footnote in the year, but it is due to come out in 2026, so maybe we'll see it in award season. Who knows? That's Order of the Sinking Star. The next game is Perfect Tide's Station to Station, and it's something a little more straightforward. It's a point-and-click sequel to the well-received Perfect Tides. It's a solo dev project that promises to explore the momentum and whiplash of young adulthood. It picks up where the first game left off. You control an 18-year-old called Mara, who is moving from her idyllic remote island home to the big city. The game offers the chance to collect items, nurture ideas, and experience complex relationships while attempting to find your place in the world. The art has a really nice style to it, and I know from the comments of previous videos that this is a game with fans, so fingers crossed for the fandom that this is what you all are hoping for. That's Perfect Tides Station to Station, dropping on Steam on January 22nd. One of the biggest sequels on the list is Planet of Lana 2. The original Planet of Lana game was one that won a lot of fans as well, primarily because of its fresh, bright, vivid visual style and a cool sci-fi setting. It was a linear stealth platformer set in a world beset by robots, in which you played as a tribal child who manages to evade capture when the rest of his family is caught. You spend the game stalking past robots and trying to rescue them, basically. I was one of the ones that didn't really gel with the first game at all. It reminded me of the very, very original Prince of Persia game, where you had to press an action button like a full 2 seconds before you see it on screen, and I felt that in precision stealth sections this was a little bit too unresponsive for me, but I know a lot of you enjoyed the original, so I wanted to include this here and let you know you're getting a sequel in 2026. That's Planet of Lana 2. This next one is a very intriguing indie game that's coming out this year. It's scheduled for Q3 and it is called PVKK. In this game you play as the operator of a giant tech cannon emplacement. It's like an earthbound space cannon basically. You live a solitary life, you live on site, you get orders on when to shoot the cannon and what faraway target to aim for. So it's kind of like a job simulator but with a really interesting job. The game has a twist of course. Someone leaves a note taped to your window that draws into question your whole existence and what you're shooting at. I think the trailer sold this idea really, really well, and I want to know what the cannon is shooting at, who left the note for us, and what is the state of the world in this game. And in case you're wondering what PVKK stands for, it is the German word Planeten Verdengungskannonenkommandant, which is a compound of 4 words meaning Planetary Defense Cannon Commander, so look out for that one swinging into your orbit come Q3 of the year. That's PVKK. In the more immediate future, on the 13th of February, we're getting Reanimal. This is a game made by Tarsier Studios, the creators of Little Nightmares 1 and 2. They decided to stop making Little Nightmare games. There was a mediocre third game made by Supermassive that was probably the last we'll see of that series. Tarsier Games said that they felt like the story was complete and they wanted to move on to darker things. And that darker direction is coming to life in Reanimal, and it's in a similar vein to the Little Nightmare games, but it's got a bit of inside in it as well. It's a psychological horror game about lost children in a big world. The demo was vibey and unsettling, and I wasn't in love with the fixed camera perspectives, but I'm definitely curious to see more. That's Reanimal. And then 1 month later, on the 12th of March, we're getting Replaced, which is one of the most anticipated indie games of the year. It's a grimy, crunchy cyberpunk platformer. I made a sponsored video about this game last year, but it was on my radar way before then, so it's no conflict for me to flag it up again. Cyberpunk cities are genuinely one of my favourite video game environments to explore, and this one looks just amazing. It has really nice lighting, it has a retro-futurist 80s take on the sci-fi, clearly Blade Runner inspired, and it has a lot of blinking neon and moody rain. And the game also looks like it has some snappy melee combat, NPCs, quests, open areas, and a classic cyberpunk plot of an AI stuck in a human body. It's coming to Xbox and PC on the 12th of March, and I have high hopes for it. That's Replaced. 10 games to go and we're into the S's with Slay the Spire 2, which is due to enter early access in Q1. This is a hyped sequel to one of the best deck builders ever made. It promises new cards, new mechanics, and new characters to play as. And I mean, I'm as excited as anyone about a new Slay the Spire game, but I have been left wondering from the trailers so far just how different it's going to be. I think we saw last year in Hades 2 that a game that's too close to the original can feel a little bit over-familiar, especially if you've played 80 hours of it or more. So I'm curious to see if this game can avoid the same fate. That's Slay the Spire 2. Into the T's and we have Tears of Metal, a roguelike hack and slash game set in a Braveheart-esque medieval Scotland. It combines fast action gameplay with base building, where you can build new shops and facilities for permanent buffs and upgrades, and it has everything you'd expect from the genre. But I think anything launching into the crowded roguelike space really needs to distinguish itself, and I didn't see any sparks of inspiration here to differentiate itself from the pack. But everything about the gameplay looks smooth and interesting and kind of cool, so let's see where the review scores land on this one. That's Tears of Metal. And the next game that I have for you is very good news for people who've been wondering about what the makers of the choice-based refugee adventure Road 96 have been up to in the meantime. The answer is Tides of Tomorrow, a choice-based narrative game coming to PlayStation, Xbox and PC on Feb 26th. It's a first-person sci-fi adventure where you choose which way the story goes, like the choice between trying to bargain with a gang leader or trying to kill him behind closed doors. It also has a promising Strand-style twist to it, where the decisions that your friends make will impact on your game. The developers have said that testing out this system and creating it was a really big challenge, so I'm really curious to see how this plays and how far they got with it. I really love games where choices affect the outcome, so I'm super intrigued by this title. That's Tides of Tomorrow, out on all the consoles and Steam on Feb 26th. We're also getting the cute indie sequel Toem 2 this year, and I really enjoyed the original Toem. It was a short and sweet black and white photography game that cleverly used your camera as a way to explore the world. It was a top-down game, but whenever you whip out your camera, you go into a first-person perspective, which left a lot of potential for secrets and jokes and seeing things that you can't see in that top-down view. The basic premise is that you're a young sheep documenting a road trip up a mountain, and you have to fulfill a checklist of photos before the bus moves on to the next location. That meant shooting portraits, wildlife photography, landscape shots, still lives and so forth, and the second game flashes forward a few years, so I'll be interested to see how it expands on the formula and what's happened to our character in the meantime. It's coming to Xbox, PlayStation and PC later this year, and it feels like a game that would be really at home on Switch, so let's hope for a Switch port too. That's Toem 2. We're also getting a new Inkle game this year. TR49 is the latest Inkle game, and I'm a big fan of this studio, even if studio head John Ingold seems to spout a steady stream of very bad takes on social media, which kind of makes me like them less. But the games that Inkle produces are very interesting. They're a bit of a mixed bag quality-wise, but the best of the bunch is Heaven's Vault, which is a really underrated sci-fi masterpiece in my opinion. TR49 is a game where you untangle a box of secret documents, trying to put together clues and figure out this hidden history. It has John Ingold in the story as a character, which seems like a bit of a strange decision. Someone should tell this guy it doesn't have to be all about him all the time. But I am curious about the game. That's TR49, coming to Steam on the 21st of January. Devolver Digital are really spoiling us this year because we're also getting Virtue and a Sledgehammer, which is an all-star collaboration between Deconstruct Team, the crew who made Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood, and Selkie Harbour, the team behind the excellent Many Nights a Whisper. This game has some of the magical, dreamy quality of both, but it also has a bit more edge than either, because it's a game in which you return to your hometown, which has been taken over by soulless robot husks. You have to smash your way through them with a sledgehammer and through any walls that stand in your way as well to confront your own past. So it's got a bit of a therapy-style rage room feel to it, and maybe that's what it'll turn out to be ultimately. I, for one, am very curious to find out, because everything about this game screams creativity and quality. That's Virtue and a Sledgehammer, coming to Steam in 2026. That takes us onto the home straight because the next game starts with a W. It is Wax Heads, a Papers, Please style administration game that swaps granting and refusing passage at the border of a totalitarian country to trying to find the right record for a queue of indecisive musical customers. They describe what they're looking for with various degrees of specificity. Some of them know exactly what they want, some kind of don't at all, and you have to interpret their wishes and find the right record for them. Sometimes that means recommending a record they don't seem to be asking for, but that it's the only one that it could be based on the information you can read on the sleeve or see on the cover of the album. It's a cute and fun idea, and it's a game that has a lot of reverence for indie store culture, I think. The stickers, the hipsters, the posters, and all of that vinyl. So I think if you're into that record stop vibe, you'll enjoy the game. I played the demo at the London Games Festival last year, and I really enjoyed it. That's Wax Heads. And if you happen to have played Sheepo, Islets, or Crypt Custodian over the last couple of years, you'll be familiar with the work of solo developer Kyle Thompson. He makes platformers and Metroidvanias with a very finely honed art style. They really do feel like they were created by an expert illustrator. The tone of his games is light, with bubbly dialogue and a cartoony look, but the gameplay can be quite challenging at times, which means that I've never finished one of Kyle's games. I have felt that they run out of novel ideas before the credits and have difficulty spikes that have made me tail off, but Kyle has definitely established a style that a lot of people respond to. Well Dweller is back to a 2D view with a side-on camera, but it looks like the art has been ramped up even further with some macabre Grimm's Fairy Tale style boss designs, and plenty of that action platforming gameplay that he's known for, so check it out later this year on Switch or Steam. That's Well Dweller. Two games to go, and the last one is another one that I picked up at London Games Festival last year. It is Will Follow the Light. And it seems like sad dad games have kind of become a jokey genre all of their own in recent years. Games where you play a melancholy dude who is sad about his kids for one reason or another. And this is a sailing version of that. It's an exploration game where you sail between different islands, you clamber ashore and explore a little. There are puzzles involving cranes, crates, buttons, telescopes and so forth. It was an early version that I played, so it was pretty buggy, but I'm very curious to see what a year's progress has meant for the game, because I feel like we don't get to do a lot of sailing in games, and it's kind of a fun thing to do. That's Will Follow the Light, coming to PlayStation, Xbox and Steam later this year. And the last game on this list that has a confirmed 2026 release window is Witchbrook. It's a magic school social sim set in the seaside town of Mossport. You'll be part of a coven of witches working towards graduation. You build up your skills until you feel ready to take on exams to level up. And then in your downtime, you can explore the town, where every NPC is promised to have an intricate daily routine. This is one of the more ambitious looking cozy games that I have seen. It has in-game boutiques, it has arcades with games that you can try and get a higher score on, it has stores you can run, it has romances to pursue, and it has seasonal changes where the weather and the landscape will change up. Seems to be intended as a local co-op game as well, so wishlist it if that sounds fun to you, because all being well, we'll see Witchbrook later in 2026. And other than that, we only have a few white whales and games of mystery left to talk about. There are a few games that don't yet have a 2026 release window, but that it seems like we're going to see this year. The first of them is Pony Island 2 Panda Circus. It's the follow-up to Pony Island, obviously, but also Inscription. It looks like an absolutely wild time, and I can't wait for this one. I picked it on my Fantasy Critic team, so I'm really hoping that we see it. We're also probably going to get Moves of the Diamond Hand, the latest game by Cosmo D, who won the Seamus McNally Grand Prize a couple of years ago. This is a very gnarly 3D adventure with a really cool style all of its own, and I'm really dying to play it. Apparently it's going to have a period of early access, but I think I'll probably wait for the full release. A game that we probably won't see this year, but we could. It's Haunted Chocolatier. This is the follow-up to Stardew Valley, but having sold an astonishing 41 million copies, I think the developer, Concerned Ape, isn't under any pressure to release this one anytime soon. And I'm also very curious about Giant Sparrow's next game. It's been 9 years since they released Edith Finch, and we've heard nothing about it other than a job listing on their website, so what could that possibly be? And will we see it in 2026? I really hope so. And I also really hope that you enjoyed this video. It was a monster of a video to compile. There's about 50 games in here, each of which has about 5 data points. That's 250 in total. So please be kind in the comments if you noticed that I forgot to say a game was coming out on Switch, or if I missed a release window change. But just to round out the video, I do have a personal top 10 here of games that I'm most excited about. At number 10 is Gecko Gods. I really loved the feeling of moving around in that world, and I really loved the demo. At number 9 I have Slay the Spire 2. I was a huge fan of Slay the Spire and have tens and tens of of hours in it, so I can't wait to see if they manage to pull off the sequel. At number 8, I have Garbage Country, the really cool car exploration game. At number 7 is Virtue and a Sledgehammer. I really trust these developers and I'm very interested in their vision. At number 6, I have Moves of the Diamond Hand. I really like Cosmo D, and this game is just wild. The demo was really something. I can't wait for this one. At number 5, I have Aphelion. There's little that I love more than exploring an interesting sci-fi environment, and that's what this game is all about. At number 4, I have Pony Island 2 Panda Circus. Inscription was my game of the year, so I want to see if the developer Daniel Mullins can reach those heights again. And number 3 is Replaced. It just looks like an amazing cyberpunk city to explore, and that is exactly my cup of tea. And number 2 is CAIRN, which is cheating a little bit because I'm playing it right now, so I already know that it's awesome. You guys have got to check this game out. It's really something. And at number 1, I've put Mixtape, just because I believe in the developer so much. I'm really excited to see what they can do with their second game, because that first one was so good and so full of energy and life and possibility. So that's it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, stick a like on it. And I want to say a big thank you to Soft Source, the publisher of Kajora, for sponsoring this video. Drop a comment with your most anticipated indie game of 2026 if you'd like to be in with a chance of winning a code for Kajora. You can also pick up codes if you join the $3 tier on Patreon. That's it from me, so take care of yourselves and each other, and bye-bye for now.